Welcome to Sight Singing Do Re Mi and Tikitiki, lesson number 1. This is an overview of what we teach children to help them learn to sight sing. Sight singing is basically the language of music being taught, where people, children and adults, can look at music and read it, and they can write it. They're fluent in a language. It doesn't necessarily mean they're fantastic singers but it just means that they can read it. Where this is the basics of reading music. The really cool thing is that sight singing is different than sight reading. When someone sight reads a piece of music on the piano, they don't have to know what it sounds like except for the rhythm, because their fingers are going to play the rhythm, but they don't have to know what the notes sound like. They don't have to know the relationship of the notes. Sight singing is a little bit harder, but it's doable, and it is really cool. And so here we go. You ready for this? Let's do it. The book that the lessons are for is this, and this is what I've created for my choirs. And I put my little tabs in there, and I write my name on there, and this is my book, but I'm going to teach you from it. So let me give you an overview of what is in the book. First of all, the entire first section is really simple pages. It's for the children. I don't want them to have to read or see anything that's distracting. And so the first page, I'll have a place where I can say, okay, everybody point to this top of the page. You'll see an A1. And then we'll do our first activity, A2. This, of course, is not the beginning. That is my introduction. So all through those first 37 pages, I think, are just simple things that the children can point to and you can use to teach the lessons. So we'll use that as I teach these lessons to you. Starting on page 39, we start the teacher section. And I've, of course, got my notes in here. It's the same thing that appears in the children's section, but it has all the explanations. There are a lot of extra things in this section. So if you're trying to learn, you're definitely going to need this. The first section is just the students, like hands-on, what they can look at. So that's the lesson section. In the back, there's a few pages of composition where we're going to practice writing rhythms and practicing what they look like. So there's some beat squares we use, and then pages of beat squares. This is for like listening and actually writing down what you hear, and you can just feel the beat with it. So that's one part. And then we have a whole section. If you are unfamiliar with rhythm syllables, these are what you're going to want. What is this, page 118? For duple time, we'll talk about the difference between duple and triple time because it changes how things work. But we're going to have a whole section of practice things. These little bubbles are to say, I did it. I did it. I did it. Every time you can practice it, you get a bubble filled in. So in classes, you can give points or tickets or however you motivate kids, grades, so they get their practice time in. Then there's another section, starting on page 124. It's the same thing, but just now in triple time. So that would be your 6, 8, 9, 8, 12, 8. Triple time stuff. We'll get to that. And then there is solfa practice. This is super important for sight singing. This is specific sight singing because you kind of have to know it. It's actually incredibly good for string instruments where there isn't a place to put your finger, and you have to hear it. You have to know what it's going to sound like. So solfa is awesome. It's really great. So that's kind of our overview. We're going to go through the whole thing. I'm going to try to give you all of the lessons. They aren't put into any grouping as far as this is which we have to teach today and this goes together. It's really just moving through it, and it goes from rhythm to solfa to reading other things, because we're also going to learn through these pages, we're going to learn about the staff, the notes on the staff, and how to remember them and to know what they are. We're going to learn about the keys on the piano, because especially as you're learning how to sight sing, you're going to want to have something that you can play and know exactly what it's supposed to sound like. We're going to do a little bit of composing, and we're just for your information, I am a movable do fan. We are not doing, we will use movable do, which means do is not middle C, or do is not C. Do can be C, do can be D, it can be E flat, whatever the key of the song is. So if you don't understand what I'm talking about, don't worry about it. If you do, now you know that I stand for movable do. So that's our overview. Join me for the next lesson. It's coming up.